opened fire in Turkey's largest city, Istanbul, a city of 14 million. Military helicopters have opened fire in the capital city, Ankara. Late today, the military launched an attempt to overthrow the elected civilian government of Turkey, an important U.S. ally and member of NATO. The U.S. has major Air Force operations in Turkey with about 1,500 airmen there. Turkey is important in the fight against ISIS in neighboring Syria. Tonight, the Turkish president has called for citizens to fill the streets to beat back the coup. Troops have taken over the airport, television station, and bridges in Istanbul. And that is where we find Holly Williams tonight.
Well, Scott, this coup or attempted coup, because we still don't know what it is, unfolded very quickly here tonight in Turkey. Here in Istanbul, which is Turkey's biggest city, there are troops and tanks on the street. They blocked off the city's two main bridges and they took control of Turkish state television, although it now appears that broadcaster is back in the hands, back under the control of pro-government forces. Here in Istanbul and also in the Turkish capital, Ankara, we've repeatedly had military jets flying very low overhead. And here in Istanbul, we've repeatedly had gunfire ringing out across the city. The Turkish state news agency is reporting that the Turkish parliament has been hit by a bomb and also that a military jet has shot down a helicopter that was being used by some of the officers behind the coup. Those reports are unconfirmed at this point. Also this evening, we heard from the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, speaking over his cell phone with Turkish television. He condemned the coup and called on his supporters to take to the streets, which is what they've done, and we've already seen some violent clashes.
And we're getting reports now from a witness that tanks have opened fire around the parliament building in the city of Ankara. Holly, what sparked this? Why now?
Well, the answer to that, Scott, is really one man, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, an extraordinarily controversial figure. He is loved by his supporters, but his critics accuse him of imposing his own conservative Islamic ideas on this country and in doing so, chipping away at their democratic freedoms. Now, the US government will be worried about further instability here in Turkey, and this evening the US government has reiterated its support for Turkey's democratically elected government. But for America, and especially recently, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has at times been a very difficult ally.
The military is known for being secular. Erdogan has been in power since 2003.
The Chinese Prime Minister has called on Japan to stop hyping up and interfering in the South China Sea dispute. Li Keqiang made the comments in a meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of a regional summit in Mongolian capital. The comments come as Japan has sided with the U.S. in the dispute, saying China must accept the ruling by the Hague Arbitration Court. On Tuesday, the court rebuked Beijing's claims to the South China Sea months after the Philippines brought an arbitration case against China. The Chinese government has boycotted the proceedings and refused to recognize the ruling.
Officials and experts in Moscow say they are disappointed but not surprised by the outcome of a rare NATO-Russia Council meeting held in Brussels on Wednesday. The meeting came just days after NATO announced that it would send 4 new battalions to Poland and the Baltics. This was the second such meeting since the start of the Ukraine crisis in 2014. Experts say that the Brussels meeting was little more than a publicity stunt, despite the need for constructive dialogue to help diffuse tensions in the region.
NATO wanted the meeting, and they wanted this meeting more for PR. Rather than for any concrete purpose other than that. NATO wanted to show that it cares about Russia's opinion or takes it into account, which it really does not, as we can see from the decisions made at the NATO summit in Warsaw.
Relations between Russia and NATO have steadily worsened since the Russo-Georgian War in 2008, but experts warn that tensions have now surpassed even Cold War levels.
In Warsaw, NATO discussed quite openly confrontation with Russia. This is a big problem. Of course, NATO claims it's defending former Soviet bloc nations from so-called Russia aggression. But the historical record is clear. NATO has been trying to provoke Russia into armed conflict for quite some time, most recently in Georgia and Ukraine.
For its part, the Kremlin says that it will adapt its security measures appropriately in order to counter NATO's new Baltic buildup.
Well, it looks like Germany is drafting up war plans for the EU and NATO powers to face off against Russia. Simon Osborne for the Express UK reports that proposals to improve the country's security defenses and boost its political clout marks a significant shift in foreign policy, which has deliberately steered clear of controversial global and military affairs since the Second World War. Yes, they state that the German Defense Ministry will release a white paper stating it is ready to assume responsibility and help meet current and future security and humanitarian challenges. It will back a long-term goal of a common European security and defense union, and also outlines Germany's hopes to actively help shape the world order.
Germany, Belgium and Britain say they will beef up security following the deadly truck attack in the French city of Nice. German police are stepping up security checks on the French border in the wake of the fatal incident. Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel has called for an emergency security meeting to be held to make sure adequate security measures are in place for the country's national holiday next week. Also, the Mayor of London says he is reassessing security levels in the British capital following the truck attack in Nice.
From Times Square to Grand Central to the Battery Tunnel, a show of force from the NYPD taking no chances when it comes to keeping New York safe after last night's terror attack in France.
I was looking around at all these innocent people and I thought, wow, this could happen here.
Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo are both taking steps to make sure that does not happen by increasing security, especially in high traffic locations.
We absolutely are on alert. We're on alert every day in New York City.
While there are no specific credible threats here right now, CBS News senior security contributor Michael Morell is not optimistic about the future.
I think it's just a matter of time before we see attacks of this size here in the United States. I have no doubt about that.
Correspondent Jeff Pegues says that France is on the minds of those protecting next week's Republican convention.
Barricades and Jersey walls line the streets. Machines are in place to detect a potential chemical attack, and police surveillance is ramped up. Still, stopping a Nice-style copycat attack is difficult. Ron Hosko is a former assistant director of the FBI.
There's a real risk that someone who is inspired to action, whether criminal or terrorist, sees this as a success and they try to replicate it.
50,000 people will attend the convention and thousands of protesters are expected. 4,000 local police will be supplemented by thousands of federal officials. So what is this? The secure zone has been mapped out by the Secret Service to allow agents to quickly cover miles in seconds in case of a disturbance.
It's not easy.
Secret Service Director Joseph Clancy.
Plan's never finished. You have to constantly be ready to adapt, be flexible to whatever may occur.
Scott, it's about remaining vigilant. Officials say there is no specific or credible threat against the convention.
New details on the effort to protect thousands of people attending San Diego Pride this weekend. The attacks on the large celebration in Nice, fresh on everyone's mind.
Down here in Hillcrest, they're already preparing for Pride. Check this out. You see this big stage here? This is usually a parking lot, but you better believe that while they're preparing down here with all those attacks that have been going on, police also preparing. 1 month ago, Orlando, Florida, 49 people killed at a gay nightclub. Today, 80 people in Nice, France, run down at a national celebration by a suspected terrorist in a truck.
The world's changing right before our eyes.
Ray Shea is a former SWAT team commander and 25-year vet with San Diego Police. So, with San Diego Pride just days away, we asked, how can San Diegans feel safe?
Because lone wolf attacks are very, very hard to stop. But there are different techniques that the police department has as far as sharing information very, very quickly.
Shea says that intel passed through every level of law enforcement, from local, state, all the way up to the FBI.
What's important is that they will use human information and gather intelligence.
San Diego police say some new safety measures you can't miss.
You are going to see a significant police presence, an increased police presence.
Está bien, buenísimo. Chévere. Bueno, porque por lo menos los juegos están baratos. Ahorita están a 1.000 y mañana están a 3.000.
Thousands of Argentinians have rallied in the capital Buenos Aires to protest energy and electricity price hikes.
Things get more and more expensive, and now with the situation with gas, water, light, it's not possible. It's no longer possible. I want this government to go.
The demonstrators blame President Mauricio Macri for the hikes in utility costs. They called on authorities to reverse the recently implemented price increases.
Right now, everything close to normal. As you said, the outage first reported at 1:17 this afternoon. Now, trains continue to run, but the problem caused serious delays on every single line.
A long and stressful day for subway riders stuck in hot, muggy train stations, getting nowhere.
It's a sweaty day for sure. There's no express trains, and then I just took about an hour to get from 86th Street to here.
Here, Union Square, the frustration displayed all over social media. Strap hangers waiting and waiting everywhere, including at Penn Station, all because the power went out at the subway's nerve center in Manhattan that controls the trains by computer.
Again, right now, trains running close to normal. The search is on for the exact cause of this outage.
For the first time, the U.S. Congress has passed laws that require the food industry to label packaging to identify foods that carry GMOs or genetically modified organisms. While this might be considered a win for consumer protection, many labeling advocates criticize this new law, arguing that most consumers won't be able to read electronic labels. To better explain why this new labeling law may not be what it appears, we're being joined now by Alexis Baden-Mayer, Political Director at Organic Consumers Association. Alexis, good to see you again. So I hear you were arrested. You were arrested at the Senate building the other day protesting this very law. What was it that was so bad about it that you had to risk getting arrested for it?
Democracy has broken down. 9 out of 10 people want to be able to see on the food label whether their food has been genetically engineered. Vermont gave us that. Now we're seeing that in the marketplace, foods that are labeled produced with genetic engineering, and Congress turns around and takes it away.
House investigation panel says it's uncovered the ugly truth about baby body part trafficking in the abortion industry. The panel started their investigation after allegations surfaced of the illegal sale of aborted fetal tissue among abortion providers. The panel spoke at a hearing Thursday and presented evidence that many abortion clinics may be selling baby body parts. One panel representative said at the hearing, this organization claims to be for women's health, but we're proving the sad reality that they're not for women's health. They're for profit, and I believe the women of America deserve to know this. The panel will end their investigation by the end of this year.
Fort Des Moines Church of Christ is suing the Iowa Civil Rights Commission because it feels its rights are being threatened.
We believe that every church should be free to both teach its religious beliefs and to use its house of worship in a way that's consistent with those religious beliefs.
The church is being represented by the national organization Alliance for Defending Freedom. In the suit, it claims the Iowa Civil Rights Commission is forcing churches to censor its teachings on biblical sexuality and force churches to open its restrooms and showers to members of the opposite sex. Lawyers for the church claim anything the church does should fall under a bona fide religious purpose, making it exempt.
But according, again, to this unelected commission in the state of Iowa, if a church holds a worship service open to the public, according to the commission, that's not a bona fide religious purpose. Again, it's just an unconstitutional, unprecedented intrusion of the state into the church.
But not everyone agrees.
So we were really surprised that this church is suing the Iowa Civil Rights Commission just for doing its job. We've had these protections since 2007. And yeah, we're a little concerned. Here in Iowa, we try to be reasonable, and this doesn't feel reasonable at all.
One Iowa, the state's leading LGBT organization, says the law is the law.
When the church is involved in a bona fide religious activity, they can do what they need to do. They can believe whatever they want. But when they offer any kind of public accommodation, they can't break the law.
Transgender woman was arrested for allegedly taking photos of a woman inside the changing room at a Target store in Ammon, Idaho, next to Idaho Falls. 43-year-old Sean Patrick Smith, who is also known as Shauna Patricia Smith, is facing a felony voyeurism charge. On Monday, a woman told police someone was taking pictures of her while inside a changing room. Interviews with witnesses and security footage led detectives to Smith. Detectives are still investigating to see if any more victims exist in relation to this incident.